3 weeks before my wedding, I checked the RSVP list. My parents hadn't responded. I thought it was passive-aggressive silence. Then my aunt called. Wait, you didn't invite them? That's when I realized. They lied to everyone. Again. And this time, I'm done begging. The RSVP list was spread out across my kitchen table like a map of betrayal. Tiny envelopes lined up like dominoes waiting to fall. Most had names checked off. College friends, co-workers, my fiancé's second cousins. But one row was hauntingly blank. My mom, my dad, not a single response. I refreshed the spreadsheet again as if maybe Google Sheets had glitched and magically decided to spare me this dread. Nothing. My stomach twisted. They hadn't RSVP'd. They hadn't even called. I tapped my pen against the table, staring at the gold-trimmed invitations I had triple-checked before mailing. I knew I sent theirs. Hand-delivered them, actually, when I stopped by their house 6 weeks ago. Mom was polite in that brittle way she reserves for strangers. Dad didn't even look up from his crossword. My heart had been chewing itself raw since. I used to believe this would change, that one day my success would be enough. But standing there at their doorstep with wedding invitations in my hand, I already knew. I wasn't the daughter they wanted. I was the one they tolerated. A memory surfaced. Me at 13, clutching a science fair ribbon, beaming. Mom barely looked up. That's nice, honey. Did Rose eat all her lunch today? Rose, the golden child, the soft-voiced miracle who never made waves. She cried once during a piano recital and was comforted with a family dinner out. I got grounded for missing a note. Same piano, same mother, different daughters. I took a deep breath and texted my Aunt Mel. She's one of the few people who ever really saw me. Hey, random question. Did you get the wedding invite? I mailed yours with Mom and Dad's. Her reply came fast. Yes, it came a while ago. Wait, you didn't invite your parents? I froze. My mouth actually fell open. What? I did, I typed. I delivered it myself. Aunt Mel's dots appeared, then vanished, then came back. Finally, they told everyone they weren't invited, that you were upset with them about something and didn't send them an invite, that they were heartbroken. My skin went cold, like the air had been yanked out of the room. I stared at the text, hoping I was misunderstanding, that maybe it was just another one of Mom's melodramatic stories taken out of context. But no, that would be too easy. This was deliberate, calculated. I heard a sound and realized it was my own breathing, coming out too shallow, too fast. They'd lied. They told my family I didn't invite them, that I was the one cutting ties. They were trying to paint me as the villain before the story even started. And it worked. Aunt Mel thought I had snubbed them. I stood up so fast my chair screeched across the tile. My wedding dress was still hanging in the spare bedroom, sunlight catching on the beading like it was mocking me, a symbol of a day that suddenly felt so hollow. I picked up my phone again, hands shaking now, and texted Aunt Mel. They're lying. I invited them. I always wanted them there. She replied, I believe you. I'll fix it. But the damage was done. I could feel it in my bones. This wasn't just a miscommunication. It was a pattern. Their need to control the narrative, to make me seem like the ungrateful one, the angry one, the selfish daughter who never cared about family. The same shit I'd dealt with my whole life, just in a new dress. They couldn't stand that I was getting married before Rose, that my life had turned out okay, even after they tried to kick me down. This was about power, about making sure everyone still saw Rose as the center of gravity, and me, just the bitter satellite, too proud to come home. I walked into my bedroom and stared at myself in the full-length mirror. My wedding dress hung behind me, a ghost waiting to be worn. I whispered to my reflection, voice barely a breath. This is my day, without them. And in that moment I felt something uncoil inside me. A grief, yes, but also clarity. I wasn't going to beg anymore. I wasn't going to twist myself into someone lovable for people who chose not to love me. I wasn't their daughter anymore. Not in the way that mattered. I was my own. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept staring at the ceiling, turning that one sentence over in my head. You didn't invite them? It echoed. It festered, because it wasn't just a question. It was a script, one they'd written without me, casting themselves as the heartbroken parents and me as the cold, selfish bitch who cut them out of her wedding. By morning, I was running on caffeine and fury. I called Aunt Mel back. Did Mom and Dad actually say they weren't invited? She hesitated. They said you didn't want them there, that you were still angry. Still angry. Like what they did was some ancient, forgiven wound, not a living scar. I was kicked out at 16 for having a boyfriend. Not drugs, not crime, just a teenage relationship. They tossed me like trash, and when I called crying from my friend's house that first night, Mom said, actions have consequences. But when Rose got pregnant at 19 and dropped out of college, they turned the house into a fucking baby shower. She moved back in with her loser boyfriend, and suddenly Mom was all about second chances. I hung up with Aunt Mel and walked to the guest room where my dress still hung, untouched. The silence in the house felt suffocating, like it knew what was coming before I did. Later that day, I got a text from my cousin Katie. Hey, just heard from Grandma. She said your parents didn't even get an invite? Are you guys okay? That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a lie. It was a campaign. A carefully orchestrated little guilt parade, marching through the family with one message. I was the problem. Again, I replied, they're lying. They got their invite the same day everyone else did. I handed it to them myself. She read it, didn't respond. And you know what? That silence? It hurt more than it should have, because I knew Katie believed me. But silence meant complicity, meant she didn't want to rock the boat. Didn't want to be the cousin who took my side over theirs. That's the thing about families like mine. Loyalty only flows one way. Toward the favorite, toward the quiet, obedient one. And when you break rank, when you say, no more, they don't try to understand. They punish. By that evening, 2 more relatives had sent similar messages. Polite, confused, vaguely accusatory. And all I could think was, how long had they been planning this lie? Was this the plan from the beginning? Then came the kicker. My sister. Rose texted me at 9:12 p.m. Wow, didn't think even you would stoop this low. Mom's been crying all day. Hope your perfect little wedding is worth it. No. Hey, no. Is this true? No benefit of the doubt. Just accusation. Just venom. I stared at the screen for a full minute before typing back. You're unbelievable. Then I deleted it. Because what's the point? I stood in the hallway outside the guest room, looking at my reflection in the dark window. Just a blurry outline of a woman who'd done everything right, built a life from scratch, loved carefully, worked hard, and still wasn't enough for the people who should have loved her unconditionally. That night, I took down the RSVP board. One by one, I peeled off the place cards, including the 2 blank ones. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just whispered, like it was a vow I owed myself, not them. I'm done chasing people who like me better as a villain, and it finally felt like freedom. The fallout came faster than I expected. By Tuesday, I noticed it in the group chat for the wedding. Cousin Mark left without a word, then Lindsay, then my godmother, Aunt Carla, who once promised to be there, no matter what. Each time someone left, it felt like a tiny pinprick to the chest. Not sharp enough to kill, just enough to keep me from breathing right. Then the text started. Not to me, to Daniel. He sat across from me on the couch, eyes scanning his phone, thumb frozen over the screen. They're saying you cut off your whole family, he said, not looking up. His voice was careful, like he wasn't sure if he should be pissed, worried, or just confused. I swallowed. They're all believing it? He finally looked at me. I don't know what to believe. That hit harder than any of them leaving the chat. Are you serious right now? I asked. You know I invited them. Yeah, but maybe they thought it was some kind of peace offering and not a real invite, he said. Like that made fucking sense. Like, maybe they thought you didn't want them there for real. I literally handed them the envelope. He rubbed his temples. I'm just saying, this isn't coming out of nowhere. Your mom's been telling people you've been distant for years. I blinked. Distant? They kicked me out of their house. I was 16. I'm not defending them, he said quickly. I'm just trying to figure out how this looks from the outside. That's when I knew. I was alone in this. Not completely. Not in the way I had been as a teenager. But in the way that matters when you're in a storm and the person holding your umbrella starts asking if maybe it's your fault it's raining. I went quiet. He apologized a few minutes later. Said he didn't mean it the way it came out, but I didn't reply. I was too busy wondering how many other people were out there, quietly agreeing with my parents. Too busy realizing that I could either keep defending myself or let their narrative rot on its own. The next day, Aunt Mel called again. Thought you should know, she said. Your mom's planning a family brunch next weekend, same day as your wedding. I actually laughed. They're calling it a healing space, she added, her voice full of disgust. For the people too uncomfortable to celebrate your bitterness. They're throwing a fucking anti-wedding brunch? Yep. And they've invited half the family, including people who RSVP'd yes to your wedding. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. Who? She named them. Each one another little dagger, dull from overuse. I asked, are you going? There was a pause. No, she said. I've had enough of their bullshit. But I wanted you to know what's happening, so you're not blindsided. I thanked her, hung up. Then I walked into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, the wedding dress still hanging in the corner. I reached for the veil. I hadn't even tried it on yet. I held it in my lap, fingers smoothing the fabric. I thought about how many years I spent pretending things were okay, smiling through backhanded compliments, apologizing for being too much, trying to earn the kind of love they gave Rose for free. I thought I'd get a fresh start with this wedding, a line in the sand. They followed me here. They poisoned this too. And for the first time, I didn't feel sad. I felt rage. Clean, blistering, purifying rage. They could throw their little brunch, wear their fake smiles, gossip about me over mimosas. But I wouldn't beg. Not this time. The night before the final RSVP deadline, Daniel came home with a six-pack and a strange look in his eyes. That quiet kind of dread men carry when they know a conversation's going to go badly no matter what they say. He set the beer down and didn't say hi, just pulled out a stool at the kitchen island and tapped the glass bottle against the marble like he was trying to summon courage. I didn't want to ask. I already knew. They talked to you, didn't they? I said flatly. He didn't answer right away, just exhaled, slow and long, like his whole body hated what it was about to do. Your dad called me, he finally said. I leaned against the counter. And? He said, he wants to talk. Just the two of us. I barked a laugh. Of course he does. Because God forbid he talked to me. He thinks things got misinterpreted. I stared at him. He told our family I didn't invite them to my wedding, and you're calling that a fucking misinterpretation? Daniel held up his hands. I'm not defending him, I'm just... Yes, you are. My voice came out cold. Too cold. He went quiet. I sat down across from him. Do you believe me? He blinked. What? I'm not asking if you believe them. I'm asking if you believe me. That I invited them. That I didn't do anything wrong. That this whole thing, this fallout, was built on their lie. He looked at me like I'd slapped him. Of course I believe you. Then why does it feel like you're always waiting for the version where I'm the asshole? He rubbed the back of his neck. Because this whole thing is insane and I'm trying to keep it from blowing up worse. There's nothing left to blow up, I said. They already burned it down. He was quiet for a long time. Then, almost too softly to hear, I just didn't think our wedding would be like this. Neither did I. I pictured something small but full of warmth. Friends laughing. My aunt crying happy tears. Parents giving clumsy heartfelt toasts. I didn't picture, whatever this was, a political standoff, a family PR war. I talked to your sister, he added. I looked up. Why? She messaged me. Said she's worried about your mental health. My mouth went dry. Excuse me? She said you've always had these emotional spirals, and she thinks the wedding stress might be affecting your judgment. I couldn't speak. He kept going like he didn't see my hands curling into fists. She said you have a history of overreacting. It took everything in me not to scream. Instead, I stood up slowly, walked into the bedroom, and shut the door. Hard. This wasn't just about my parents anymore. They'd drafted Daniel into their little revisionist play, and he didn't even realize he'd become a fucking mouthpiece. They weren't just trying to sabotage the wedding. They were trying to gaslight me into thinking I didn't deserve one. Later, he knocked. I didn't mean to upset you. Too late, he sighed. I don't know how to fix this. You can't, I said through the door. But you can stop letting them use you to hurt me. Silence. Then, okay, I didn't open the door. I couldn't. If I saw his face, I might break, and I couldn't afford to break again. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the window, watching headlights pass on the street below. I kept thinking about that phrase. Emotional spirals. Maybe I am spiraling, but not because I'm fragile, because I'm finally seeing the truth without their filters. And it's fucking horrifying. The next morning, I called the caterer and reduced the head count by 12. I didn't even flinch. The dress didn't fit right anymore. I stood in the alterations shop, half-pinned, staring at myself under the harsh fluorescence and thought, this isn't the body I imagined I'd have when I got married. Not bloated from stress, not shoulders hunched from weeks of emotional trench warfare. The seamstress was polite, too polite. Just a little tight here, she said, tugging at the waist. Nothing we can't adjust. Yeah, well, some things can't be adjusted. I drove home in silence, windows down, wind cutting through the stale tension in my car. The RSVP board was gone now, packed away in the closet. Too many blank cards. Too many people who chose silence instead of standing up. When I got back, Daniel was in the living room on a video call with his mom. I caught enough of it to hear her say, "You sure she's okay to go through with this?" He ended the call fast when he saw me. I didn't ask. I was tired of asking. Instead, I went straight to the bedroom and grabbed the photo album from the top shelf of the closet. The one labeled Family, 1996-2012 in silver marker. The one I hadn't touched in years. I sat on the floor and flipped through it slowly. There was one picture that always made me pause. Christmas, maybe 2004. I was in the background, half cut out of the frame. Rose was front and center, holding her new bike. I'd gotten books that year. My face said everything. Invisible, even then. I should have thrown the album away years ago, but part of me kept hoping one day I'd look back and only see warmth. That day never came. My phone buzzed. A message from Aunt Mel. "You should know. Some people are backing out of Rose's engagement party. They're pissed." I stared at the screen, confused. Then another message came in, this time from my cousin Noah. "You were right. They lied." "I'm so sorry." "Wait, what?" I texted Mel back. "What's happening?" She called me instead. "Apparently word got out that they lied about the invite," she said. "Katie admitted it. She told a few people you did invite them, and that they just decided to play victim. Now everyone's pissed." I blinked. Like, actually pissed. "Oh yeah," she said. "It's turning into a shitstorm. People are calling your mom out. Your dad's trying to play peacemaker, but it's not working. Half the family's saying they're done with the drama. Some even said they're boycotting Rose's party in protest." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want a family war. I just wanted them to tell the truth. But a small, vicious part of me felt something else. Relief. They finally saw it. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't the one twisting the story. They had done it to themselves. Daniel came into the room as I ended the call. He looked unsure. "Careful." "I heard," he said. I waited. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner." I said nothing. "I told my mom to back off," he added. "Told her this is our wedding, not a family referendum." I looked at him for a long time, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone. Maybe this wasn't going to be a happy ending. Maybe there's no fixing what's broken. But I wasn't the villain anymore, and I wasn't afraid of the truth. Not theirs. Mine. The next few days were oddly quiet. Not peaceful. Not calm. But that eerie stillness that creeps in after an explosion, when the dust hasn't settled and you don't yet know what survived. I got 3 more apology texts. 2 from cousins who'd originally believed my parents. One from an uncle I hadn't heard from in years who wrote, "Didn't realize how deep it ran. I'm sorry we failed you. Failed me." That hit different. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was something. An acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, they'd been complicit by looking away for too long. Daniel was on his best behavior now, helping with last-minute details, defending me in every call, shutting down every, "Are you sure she's okay?" whisper with a firm, "Yes, I'm sure." But the damage had already carved its space between us. It hung in the quiet moments, in the way he watched me when he thought I wasn't looking, like he was still waiting for me to collapse or disappear. And honestly, part of me wanted to. The wedding was 10 days away. 10, and I still hadn't heard a word from my parents. Not a call, not a message, not even a passive-aggressive card. Just silence. Their favorite language. Until yesterday. I was checking my email, deleting junk, when I saw it. Subject: please read from Mom, Winslow 57 at something. I clicked. We don't want to fight anymore. This isn't what we wanted. We were hurt by how distant you've become, but we never meant to cause harm. Your father and I just want to understand why you've made us the enemy. We'll be at the brunch if you change your mind. Rose is still devastated. Please think of your family. I read it twice. Then again. And each time the same words screamed in my head. Bullshit. No apology. No ownership. Just soft language. We were hurt. You've become distant. As if I'd drifted away on some whim. Not pushed out again and again until the only choice left was leaving for good. They wanted to understand, but only on their terms. Only if it ended with me crawling back and saying, you were right. I was wrong. Please love me now. I closed the email. Didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new tab and started editing my ceremony speech. The one I'd written weeks ago, full of hope and carefully chosen words about unity and family and love. I deleted the second paragraph. Then the third. Then the sentence about being shaped by those who raised us. Because the truth is, they didn't raise me. They tolerated me, controlled me, compared me to their masterpiece child until I stopped asking for affection and started earning silence. Daniel came in an hour later holding 2 mugs of tea. He handed me mine, then hesitated. You okay? I turned the screen so he could read the last line I just typed. I am no one's second choice. Not today. Not ever again. He read it, nodded once. And for the first time I saw something settle in his eyes. Not sympathy, not concern, respect. The invitations on the fridge were starting to curl at the edges. One for our wedding, one for Rose's healing brunch. Same font, same gold foil, same lie printed in different tones. I stood there that morning, coffee in hand, staring at them both like I was looking at 2 versions of my life. One I fought for, and one that tried to swallow me whole. The wedding was in 5 days. Daniel's mom called to ask if we wanted her to say something during the toast. I said no, politely, firmly. Are you sure? She was hoping to speak. She had a chance to speak when she questioned my sanity. I cut in. We're good. It was the first time I heard Daniel say damn under his breath like he was proud of me. But that same day, Rose posted something on Facebook. Public. Dramatic. It's sad when people rewrite history to feel like heroes in their own stories. Some of us were too busy holding this family together to waste time on victim narratives. No name, no tag, but every cousin, every aunt, every ex-classmate who still had me added, they all knew. I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for the rage, waiting for the familiar spike of hurt, but nothing came, just pity, because she really thought this was still about winning. Daniel saw it later that night and said, she's unhinged. She's rehearsed, I corrected. She's been preparing for this performance her whole life. He sat beside me on the bed, both of us scrolling, not speaking. After a while, he asked, do you want to respond? No, I said. I want her to sit with the silence. That's what abusers hate the most. The absence of reaction. When the script doesn't play out. When you don't fall apart like you're supposed to. Aunt Mel called again. She'd become my unlikely wartime advisor. The only one who hadn't flinched when the story cracked open. They're scrambling, she said. You should see your mom's face when people ask her why she lied. I didn't want to see. I didn't need to. What about the brunch? I asked. Still happening, but the RSVP list is shrinking. I didn't cheer, didn't gloat. I just sat with that quiet shift inside me, the feeling of not being hunted anymore, of being out of reach. 2 nights before the wedding, I got one last text. From Rose. Congratulations. I hope it's everything you need it to be. Not warm, not cruel, just hollow, like even she had run out of lines to say. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked into the closet, pulled the veil from its box, and laid it across the bed. Then I looked in the mirror, same as I had weeks ago. But this time I didn't flinch. I touched the ring on my finger and whispered, you made it. Not to them, to me. The morning of the wedding started quiet. No drama, no missed calls, no last-minute guilt bombs dropped by extended family. Just the steady hush of sunrise through the curtains and the soft zip of the garment bag as I pulled it open. The dress fit perfectly now, not because I'd lost weight, but because I'd stopped carrying them. Aunt Mel arrived early, iced coffee in hand, shoes already in her purse. I don't trust heels until after photos, she said, slipping on flip-flops like a war general preparing for battle. She kissed my cheek and whispered, you did it, and I had, despite them, because of them. The bridal suite filled slowly. Friends, chosen family, laughter bouncing off the walls. No one asked where my mother was. No one mentioned Rose, not even Daniel. He and I had agreed, no traditional first look. We'd save it for the aisle. But around noon, his best friend slipped me a note. Daniel's handwriting, crooked as ever. No matter what happens today, know this. You didn't just survive them. You outgrew them, and you built something better. I'm proud of you. See you at the altar. I cried harder at that than I had during the whole saga. The ceremony was everything I didn't dare hope for. Sunlight, steady hands, not a single empty chair from my list. Not one awkward sideways glance. Everyone who stayed had chosen to. We wrote our own vows. Mine weren't about fairy tales or fate. I talked about effort. About building trust brick by brick when you grew up being gaslit in your own home. About choosing love when your blueprint was damage. The reception was loud, chaotic, perfect. My friend Jess toasted. To healing. the kind that comes with boundaries and well-placed fuck yous. Everyone cheered, even Daniel's mom. And then, around 9 p.m., someone tapped my shoulder. It was Katie, my cousin, who'd first believed the lie, the one who told me later she regretted it. "I need to tell you something," she said, voice tight. "Your mom was here." My stomach dropped. "She didn't come in," Katie added quickly. "She parked across the street, stayed in the car, left 10 minutes ago." I went outside, heels in my hand, gravel cool beneath my feet. The parking lot was nearly empty, moonlight soft and sharp. Her car was gone. I don't know what I would have done if she'd walked in. I don't know if I would have screamed or turned away. But I stood there a while, imagining her sitting in that car, watching from a distance, not part of it, never again. And for the first time, I didn't ache for her. I pitied her. She missed it. Not the flowers or the food or the first dance. She missed me. By choice. I went back inside into the noise and music and warmth. Into the life I had built, no longer shaped by absence. Daniel met me at the edge of the dance floor. "Everything okay?" I nodded. "She was here," I said. "Didn't come in." He didn't ask who. He didn't need to. He just held out his hand and said, "Dance with me." And I did. The morning after the wedding, I woke up to a dozen text messages and a pounding in my temples. Part champagne, part emotional whiplash. One message stood out, from a number I didn't recognize at first. It was never supposed to go this far. "Please call me, Dad." I stared at it like it might detonate. Daniel sat up beside me, rubbing his eyes. "What is it?" I showed him the screen. He didn't say anything, just took my phone, placed it face down on the nightstand, and said, "We'll deal with them later. Today's yours." But that was the thing. It wasn't mine. Not anymore. The wedding was over. The ceremony, the dancing, the brief bubble of joy that blocked everything else out. It popped the second the sun came up. I got up, put on sweats, and sat on the balcony with a cup of coffee and my own silence. He texted. After all of that, not an apology, not accountability, just that same old performance. It wasn't supposed to go this far, as if he'd been an observer, not an architect. By noon, I'd received a message from Rose, too. "You really hurt Mom." She was trying. Watching from the car, that was her olive branch. And you ignored her. I hoped that felt good. And there it was. The new script. We'd moved past. You didn't invite us to. We tried, and you rejected us. The rewrite was already underway. I almost admired it. How fast they shifted. The family PR machine never missed a beat. I replied with just one sentence. "You watched them lie about me for weeks." And said nothing. "Don't talk to me about hurt." No response. Daniel and I flew out that evening for our mini honeymoon. Just a few days by the coast. Quiet. No drama, no noise. But I couldn't stop checking my phone. Not for their replies. For the silence. It said more than anything. The second night, we walked by the water, shoes in hand, moonlight catching on the wet sand. Daniel stopped and asked, "You think they'll ever actually own it?" "No," I said. "And I don't need them to." He looked surprised. "You don't?" "I wanted them to. For years. I wasted years waiting for the version of them that would finally say, we were wrong. But now, I just want peace, even if it comes without closure." We stood there a while, listening to the waves. I think he was trying to find something to say that wouldn't sound like pity. Finally, he asked, "Are you okay?" And I was. Not fixed, not healed, but okay. Because I'd survived the fire and walked myself out of the ash. Because I said no, and meant it. Because I didn't go back. And I never will. 6 weeks later, I changed my last name. Not just on Instagram or on cute wedding thank you cards, but legally. DMV, Social Security, everything. It wasn't about tradition. It wasn't about Daniel. It was about shedding the old name. Their name. The one that clung to every school form, every doctor's appointment, every report card that read, "Could apply herself more." The name they used when they praised Rose and barely tolerated me. Now it was mine no longer. A few people asked why I didn't hyphenate. I smiled and said, because I needed the cut to be clean. What I didn't say was this. The old name made my stomach tighten every time I heard it in waiting rooms. It was the name on every letter that started with, "We're concerned about your behavior." The name that sat in the silence of my voicemails, unreturned birthday messages, the space left blank at parents' signatures. Aunt Mel was the only one who really understood. When I texted her a picture of the new ID, she called within seconds. "You look like someone who finally left prison," she said, laughing. I did. And in small ways, the rest of my life started to shift with it. Daniel and I moved into a new apartment. Nothing fancy, but it had light, air, no ghosts in the walls. I boxed up the family photo albums and shoved them in a closet I didn't plan to open for a long, long time. People kept asking if I'd reconciled, if I'd made peace. And I wanted to scream, "You don't have to reconcile with people who abuse you quietly, who smile as they gut you, who punish you with silence and then call it your fault you bled." But I didn't. I just said, "No, but I'm okay." Rose emailed once. A wall of words that somehow said nothing. Phrases like regretful and miscommunication and family matters. I archived it without reading past the second line. My mother never reached out again. Good. She missed my wedding. She missed the person I became. She missed the only chance she had to fix it. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Some mothers do not love you. Not really. They love the idea of you. Obedient, soft, compliant. The daughter who never tells the truth out loud. The daughter who never says no. I was never that daughter. And now, finally, I didn't want to be. The last thing I did was remove them from my emergency contact forms. One by one. Doctor, work, insurance. Gone. It felt small. It felt huge. It felt final. One night, Daniel and I sat on the balcony of our new place, feet up, glasses in hand, a breeze moving the curtain just enough to make it feel like the past couldn't reach us here. I still think about it sometimes, I said. He nodded. Me too. Do you think it ever stops hurting? He took a sip of wine. I think it stops mattering. I looked at him, then down at the ring on my finger, then out into the city that didn't know who I used to be. And I whispered, not to him, not to anyone, just to myself. I'm free.